Welcome to Ancient Wisdom, episode 57. Can you bereave? I never can. A podcast for those who want to be deep, can't quite get there. So, let us help you, because we're doing the same thing. I was thinking about the internet and where it's going. You guys think the internet will just be a bunch of in the future, or people will actually appreciate thoughtful content? Yeah, it's really weird. Like, what do people want? I was helping my dad fix the printer the other day, but not really, because I don't know shit about fucking printers. What is it, 2005? Printers don't exist. So I'm like, I can't help you. You're young. He's getting angry at me. I'm like, I don't fucking know. Dude, I know about as much as you do. Like, I can't help you. And like, it was frustrating him. And then I told him, there's this thing called YouTube. You type in the model and you say the problem, and there's some Indian guy explaining it.
Yep.
Looks like me, but darker.
You taught him YouTube?
Yeah, so I had to teach him YouTube, and he wasn't understanding. I did everything the video. Dad, there's like 100 fucking videos. Keep going. Your stupid boomer generation talks about tenacity and actually doing something. Like, keep going.
That's a good point.
Click the next video.
Yeah, pick yourself up by the bootstraps.
Yeah, pick yourself by the YouTube bootstraps and go to the next video. And yo, I swear to God, I had this deep thought the other day. Let me know what you guys think. I says, oh my God, for my whole life, I didn't say I want to believe in aliens like all those stupid hats. I say I believe. That's another side tangent. I want to believe. Do you believe or do you not believe? You know all the stupid hats? Yeah. I want to believe.
I want to believe they're out there.
Yeah, I want to believe. I don't think that's even grammatically. Do you or do you not? You want to? I don't know. Side tangent. But I'm starting to doubt in the existence of aliens now. I used to be all about it.
You, Mitch?
This guy. If you could believe. And frankly, it's because of humanity. I can't see things happening too differently than they're happening now. What do you guys think? We discover, basically, I'd say we had an industrial revolution. Okay, we started making gears and cogs and harnessing the forces of the earth to make things. We made engines. And then in the scientific revolution, the big one after vacuum tubes was transistors. Transistors created microchips, It's almost natural. Like, this wouldn't take a million years unless maybe you're like a mermaid people and you invent stuff underwater where the environment is different, and this couldn't happen. Right. I think it's always going to happen like this. You invent transistors, in a couple of years you're going to have the internet. And my big conclusion is, before you even say that, basically where I'm leading to is that society kills itself every time. I think there are planets, there are life throughout the solar system, the galaxy, the world, the universe. And they kill themselves every time.
Like any intelligent race?
I seriously think so. I'm starting to think that.
It's like
there have been aliens, but they never left the planet.
Maybe it's the most likely event if between like asteroids and volcanoes and things like that could really mess you up.
Yep.
Maybe the most next probable thing is self-destruction.
I really think so. Because think about the timeline.
I agree.
It took us, if you believe in evolution, we'll get into it today, but if you believe the timeline, it took us millions of years to get to whatever, let's say the 1800s, where things started to really roll. Okay, we make transistors, and in 50 years, we have the internet. And actually, we made nukes even before that, if you think about it. Mm-hmm. So we're never equipped to handle it that fast. We have evolved to a way for millions of years, and then in 50 years, we get nukes, sex bots, internet, chaos, and then we just kill ourselves every time because we're not equipped to handle the technology we've been given. Maybe the timelines are off.
Maybe we're too individualistic of a species. Maybe maybe there's another species out there somewhere that's more like a communal, like an ant. Maybe they're more like, we're going to help the community, the hive.
Right.
Maybe they're less individualistic. I feel like a lot of ours comes from
I can see that. That's pretty interesting.
The ego. Maybe if the aliens have less of an ego than us.
Ooh, that's pretty cool.
That's
but
how
then
you can
think
get into
of
space.
then you think about my natural thought is then they wouldn't have like emotions like us. They wouldn't have too many artists if they're all about the commune.
Would they even compete to make anything?
Yeah, they just live, they build, but they probably wouldn't compete with each other.
Wouldn't
It'd
advance.
be all for the good of the species. And they'd still have war with the other species, as we see with ant colonies and stuff as well. But yeah, they wouldn't have the interpersonal conflicts that I think we do. And you I like the thought though that we are kind of primate type species, so they say. What if it was like an insect type species?
Or
what
just
if it was an
egotistical.
aquatic type species?
Just less like tribal, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Could you break it down to a word like that? Egotistical, tribal.
Because
is that our downfall?
Because once you said, I feel like maybe once you get rid of one, you can't have advancement of technology, because that all comes from competition. That all comes from companies competing and trying to sell a better widget, a better thing. And if you don't have an ego, if you don't have a competitive nature, you're not going to design anything new, would you?
Right, you're just going to have a peaceful life.
Yeah.
At least in the war mentality, but I think maybe if you don't do it to compete with other businesses, maybe you do it for personal commendations. You want people to think you're cool, so I want to be the one to invent it. It's not necessarily the war mentality, like we have to make the bomb before Germany does. But I feel like I still want to be the one to do it.
In wanting to be cool, I feel like naturally you're going to progress to industrialization, because I want to be cool to more people, so I want more people to see my inventions of industrializing
and I guess that's my argument, unless you guys have any other, is that it kind of all leads to that. It all leads to that. All roads lead to Rome. Despite the reason you do it, I just can't see anyone inventing a transistor and say that's nice and throw it away.
Yeah, I think
this is huge. It regulates current. What? This is crazy. If you were smart enough to make the transistor, you're smart enough to know the logical conclusions and the utilization for that.
Yeah, I think you're right. The natural progression is to just destroy ourselves or any intelligent race, because after the transistor, after Industrial Revolution, the gaps of wealth and resources is just exponential, because one party has way more than everybody else.
The biggest of all time.
And you don't want to get rid of everybody else because you want something inferior to you to compare yourself to.
Yeah.
So it's just going to naturally progress to the internet, mass information, and banking. And
what if we can't see them because they're hiding from us because they want to see how we end up? They're giving us the benefit of the doubt to see, maybe these apes will make it into space. Maybe they'll be space apes.
Space apes. Space Apes 3.
Once they get into
Elon
space,
returns.
we don't want them anywhere near us, because look at what they did to their planet.
Yeah.
So maybe
that's when they have to kill us.
Sequestering us, or waiting to kill us, or something watching us.
I was about to say, if we don't kill ourselves, they kill us. They're like, all right, we still don't trust these dudes just because they got off Earth. That's what I always thought. They were waiting for my big scheme even a decade ago. They're waiting for us to get to singularity, where we've made machines as smart, if not smarter than humans. Because that's like an ultimate test.
Then they
if
come
you
down.
can create something better than yourself. But then I'm also thinking that humans don't really have a purpose after that either. So why keep that?
I think, either they don't exist, or if they do, they're just disinterested with us because they've got egos too, and they're just trying to look at after their own.
That's my new take. Aliens aren't real, and species always kill themselves. Just my new take. Going forward, that's my new ancient take. But let's get into the real show, guys. Ancient wisdom. So, I've been thinking, why don't people meditate? Or if they do, they seem to not be able to focus. And in my research, I found even the Buddha talked about this. Man, dude, ancient wisdom is limitless. Any thoughts you have, it's been thought before. List of the 5 hindrances of meditation. Plays a thing. So, Evan, what stops you from meditating? What stops you in this life?
Thinking that I will never reach the goal of
God.
meditating, what it's meant to be, like enlightenment.
Wow. Leave it to Evan. He jumped to the last one first, but maybe that just means he's deep, because that's called what the Buddha would call doubt. You doubt that it's even worth it. Why am I doing this?
I think doubt is the hardest for me, because you think that you're going to invest all this time to have this divine enlightenment and perfect peace inside.
Yeah.
But then you also have that thought, what if I do this for so long and I gain nothing?
Yeah, just kind of waste the one life you were given.
Right, and then it's like you could have been, having all these physical, worldly pleasures all that time.
Absolutely. And again, where's the evidence, right? Much like the aliens, where's the evidence? I don't see anyone enlightened. It seems to be, if not impossible, very rare at the very least.
And the whole Jesus is God thing.
Yeah.
If I were to see Jesus as God, then I'm not even going to bother trying to be like Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a rough one, right? I often think that, all right, Jesus, I love the stories and everything, but I mean, I'd believe a lot better if I saw him doing miracles. But then he said to the dudes who wanted to see a miracle, he's like, you will not be given a miracle. And I'm like, oh, fuck you, dog.
right. That's true.
That was like the main thing he said about the dude who said that.
Now I will not.
Now I'm like, what? Are you kidding me with this? But it's the one thing that I need. I'm just supposed to believe because a book said. How about this, Jesus? If you say it, if you come and tell me that you're God, I'll be like, okay. But like reading a book, I don't know. I think that's where people in general sort of have their reservations. And I think people tend to think, who needs enlightenment when I'm going to die anyway?
Right.
The end is all the same, the great equalizer. People end up thinking that about money and shit too. Like, why am I trying so hard about anything, let alone meditation?
I guess I jumped to the end, but I feel like I couldn't even guess what the others are, because that so overpowers any other part of it that I could think of.
That's huge, yeah, because that's why it is the end, right? It's the death. It's just like, it's the end line. You're seeing the finish line. Am I going to do this? Oh, I'm going to be dead. There's also fun stuff that I know I like to do. Why am I going to do this thing that I don't know if I like it? Why am I going to order a quarter pounder with cheese when I know I like the Big Mac? Poach, how about you, man? You ever think, why aren't I meditating as much as maybe I would like to, or I should?
No, honestly, it's the restlessness.
Restlessness.
And it's because I already saw this thing at your place. It's not even that, like, I worry about. I know, like, in my mind, I know the meditation's a good thing. I know it's going to help me.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like I can't even get into it.
Wow.
Because I'm jumping around too much.
Hot take. The day-to-day nature, the reality.
It's like I do believe in the meditation. I want it.
That's cool.
I can't get to it because I have so many things to do.
And you know it's good for you,
and I know
too.
it's good for me, but I'm too
That's
busy.
deep. Taking it to the next level.
It's like broccoli.
That's my problem.
I know it's good for me. I know that
I just don't like how it tastes.
Yeah. But I just can't quite do it. So how would you break that down, you think? Is it the day-to-day? Is it sort of restlessness like a distraction?
It's not day-to-day. It's just that's just how I am.
So how the Buddha kind of put it is he broke it down into anxiety and regret. So this might be you. Let me know if this vibes with you, Poach. It's the idea of the past and the future. Getting to oneself. That's what he described as restlessness.
Yeah, I think it's like we
worry about the future, we regret the past.
And I don't even worry about far in the future. It's more of like, will I finish my day? Will I finish all the goals I wanted to complete today? And meditation gets kicked to the back of the line because I'm like, I got to finish all the things that I thought I was going to finish today.
On my
this is what
schedule.
I wanted to do.
Yeah.
It's like an internal restlessness of wanting to go.
Damn, so then, I won't get all high and mighty on you, but the Buddhist take would be like, maybe meditation in that case should be on your to-do list.
Should be first, right?
Yeah, right.
Should be on the to-do list as one of the higher, more important ones.
Yeah, well put. Yeah, how would you feel about that sort of perspective? Like,
now that I'm not so deep into full-time work, I've done it, but I
Yeah.
haven't put it at the top.
Right, because there's like this disconnect. I'm just, again, don't want to get too deep on you, but you say, I know it's good, but you also say, I ain't got time for that shit, right?
Yep.
There's like this little disconnect.
I'm getting
but if you
better.
know that it's good,
I'm getting better. Is what
Oh,
I'm
so that's
saying.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
'Cause
it's a process in
I used
itself.
to completely ignore it. Completely.
right?
Yeah.
I think I don't do it because I feel like the reason I don't do it is because I'm a nihilist at my core. I will deny that to the end, but I really think it's true about myself. Because I think just
Deep.
numbing yourself with worldly pleasure in the moment is just way more fulfilling, especially if you could like keep it going and sustain that for a long time. But you really have to look at your true nature and your nihilistic self, because you are just waiting for death if you're just like putting stuff in your body that's not good for you, that's just like giving you a high.
And the reality of knowing, assuming you've done it enough, that it never does last, right?
Yep.
That's like the toughest one. That's what Ram Dass talks about. He kept taking acid. And then he always came down, even when he did it straight for 3 weeks, didn't stop, taking 400 micrograms. He always came down every time, much like sex, food, you always get hungry again. But what they say about the meditation or the enlightenment is that it's the lasting high, finally the lasting high. And the nihilism brings up a good thing, because what may get in the way the worldly pleasures is the first hindrance, which is called desire.
Ooh.
The wanting of things. It's probably the most distracting, in my opinion, because it is ever pervasive. It's always here. There's always something you want. If you're not hungry, if you want sex, if you're thirsty, maybe you want reputation, you want people to like you. Even if you have all of those things kind of covered, you're like, my life isn't exactly how it could be.
Oh, dude, I gotta always go back to the Garden of Eden, because they were
The original story.
They were in
Oh, yeah.
Nirvana.
Paradise.
They're in paradise.
Yeah.
And that apple looks pretty tasty. I don't know if it was an apple, but
Yep.
that looks pretty tasty. It's the lowest branch. It's right there.
Oh, it's speaking to me.
And the guy who gave you paradise is like, you don't want to do that.
No,
You don't
that's
want
the one
that.
thing.
You've already got it all, man.
That's deep.
But it's right there rather than... That's crazy.
Man.
I was trying to think of an analogy, like maybe there's a better fruit on a higher branch. But no,
That's pretty deep. You're not even looking because it's right in your face.
Right.
Yeah.
But you've got infinite fruits and other berry trees and other things to eat from
You're
right
in
there.
paradise.
Exactly.
Kramer! You called it paradise. This is so deep, right? Because we're saying it's meditation. It's good. You called it paradise, God, Adam and Eve. You said paradise, the Garden of Eden. We're here. But you want that apple, the one thing that you shouldn't be doing? That is pretty deep.
That thing right in front of you is so tempting.
Yeah.
Because it's familiar. You've done it before.
That's right.
Like you always go back to the tree because your ancestors did it. You know, it's
And as we know, I often relate the Garden of Eden or desire to the thought process. Even some trippy mystical people say, man, the apple is like the brain, man. You know, because we're thinking too much. That's what the real apple is. You know, life was fine. Meditation, paradise, the cessation of thought, the being. Which kind of makes sense now that I'm thinking about it in a weird way. But then you have this thought, you have this desire, this vision, this uneasiness, an idea of how your life could be better than it is right now. And maybe it, you know, all these mixed together, right? Like my life could be better right now if I just did this one thing. Fuck meditation. No. That's no life at all. It's almost like stopping life. From a certain perspective, am I right? Like
Whoa.
it's stopping everything.
But stopping it is also bringing the most
Isn't that deep?
progress or
But
peace
it's
to your life?
that's why meditation is such a trippy one, because I think we could almost all agree, maybe not everybody, but it's very good for you. It's one of the most high feelings you could get, but our worldly rational brain says fuck that, dog.
Yeah, the studies, the gray matter increases in people who meditate.
You want to be
more.
smarter, don't you? You want to
Yeah.
have more gray matter, don't you? Oh yes. You say these things, and yet most people don't meditate.
I think what gets a lot of people is the balance
Balance
between these problems and their lives that we're going through. So let's take the one that I know, restlessness, for an example.
Yeah.
Some people just like doing stuff, but just because you like doing stuff doesn't mean that should be your constant nature. Balance,
Yes.
right? Other people
like that.
love
Yep.
desires. They love just fulfilling that desire, but that doesn't mean that's you. So balance that out with
not
meditation.
all of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, like, okay, it's not bad that I'm restless. That's just me, but I have to know it, and I have to balance it with the proper meditation.
That's really cool.
Don't
I like
escape
that a
it.
lot.
Don't run
Yeah,
away
don't
that
run
you're
from it.
restless.
Yes,
Yeah.
take it,
And
but no.
Poj reminded me of something that there's this thing in sales and marketing where people buy when they want to gain pleasure or avoid pain. And I didn't even thinking
Simple.
about the avoiding pain thing because I'm thinking about the fruit, pleasure, immediate gratification.
Yeah.
But in your day-to-day life, the rat race, you're like, oh, I got work again tomorrow. Same thing the next day and the next day and the
Form
next
of
day.
desire, in my opinion. The
Right.
mind.
So you're like, well, let me just get high now
Oh, yeah.
because I want to forget that I have to do this thing I hate tomorrow.
I know, yep.
So it's like you're running away from something that hasn't even arrived yet. And
Yeah.
and you could have peace right now in the moment. So it's almost not even gaining pleasure. You're running away from pain.
Absolutely. And you could extrapolate that into a million different things, like thinking you know how things are going to end, thinking you know what someone else thinks, how they're going to react. But the truth is, you don't know all this stuff.
I think when I don't want to meditate, it's because I'm telling myself that I'm being phony, that I'm not a fraud. And that's where the Western...
Not a spiritual guy. type
Right. It's like, who am I kind of
Yeah,
thing. Like
the
that
meditate.
Western idea comes into my mind of like there's a more superior
Yeah.
life force above me. And I could never tap into that thing. Again, with the Jesus being God.
Right.
Like, it's like, well, I can't walk on water, so I would even bother trying to talk to God in private. You know what I
Man.
mean? I'll never be able to do that.
Man, that's a deep one. Because any number of phrases of like what Jesus say, knock and the door will open. It's
Yeah.
almost like it's saying try. It's almost like, hey, I know you ain't nothing, but you are a part of me in a way. Almost like saying, if you see it from a different perspective, you are in my good graces. Hard
Dude,
to
I'm
say.
convinced this show could like cure all addictions, man.
Yeah.
Like there's the conversation is getting me high right now.
Yeah, I'm
and-
serious. I was just telling Poach, like, this show was freaking great. That's why I was so hyped about the algorithm thing. I'm like, if we kind of just keep going, people will see the show.
It makes perfect sense, even though I'm not immune to worldly pleasures.
Yeah.
I know that my peace has been greater in the few moments that I've been able to resist them and go within.
Wow. Isn't that, dude, that's endlessly deep. It really is. And of course, there's also the opposite of restlessness, which is our third on the list, but fourth overall, sloth, the lack of will, lack of energy for it all.
Can't relate.
Okay, deep. Evan, you ever felt something like this?
I totally relate to sloth, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that when I do, it's the world or things that I use dragging me along as opposed to me interacting with them and being part of the whole dance and the whole progression of time. I feel like sloth I feel like they all go hand in hand,
Of course.
but sloth, I feel like you are more hard on yourself when you are slothful.
Yeah, that's true. These different angles and then being slothful, being sort of perhaps a part of human nature. Would you guys agree? We all have slothful moments, perhaps.
For sure.
But I think what this really is talking about is the deeper concept of why people have yogas. They have different poses. When you meditate, you have to sit up properly. You can't be laying down when you meditate. Otherwise, you'll just fall asleep. And it's very different because it's the state of torpor versus the state of meditation. It's going into sleep, total shutting down versus being kind of with it. You could say maybe completely with it, or you could say at equilibrium. I'm half in the world and I'm half in the sleep realm. Meditative. I guess there's all different ways to see this and visualize it, because it's also leaving the world entirely. It's being sucked out to a certain degree.
Yeah, it's almost paralysis. It's God's way of forcing us
Yeah.
to meditate, even though just because our body needs to rest to do what we do. But that's why I think the demons or the hell is worst in the morning, because you're thrown back. It's like being born. It's like you're thrown back into this thing that you have no control over.
Oh my God, here we go again.
And it's like the first thing is like, oh, what do I got to do to get back to this peace where I didn't feel
Maybe
anything?
Having nice dreams too, or something like that. Something fresh, at least. The dreams, if you're not a freak with recurring dreams, it's usually always fresh, a new adventure for me personally.
Or no dreams, just the lack of feeling in general.
Yeah, that's true. And something about that, the sacred silence and sleep, because your physical body is still in the world, but I'm not interacting with you, so I can't say you are active, but you're also not asleep, because that's a very particular state as well. So it's very interesting. It's hard to actually describe. There was this I don't know if they still do them because the world's so fucked up, but there's this certain type of meditative retreat, for example, that you go to for however many weeks. You meditate for 18 hours a day. And if you move at all, somebody is assigned to beat you with a stick. They just beat the shit out of you. And then one day a week or whatever, it's your turn to be the guy that beats people with a stick. So sometimes you get revenge and shit. But mostly it's the point, like, you don't itch your nose, you don't like readjust yourself. No, like the focus must be intense. You stay perfectly still. And the pain of knowing that you have erred sort of reinforces the stillness. You want to further. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It is beating the sloth out of you, something we wouldn't probably do anymore.
Beat the devil out of it.
Beat the devil out of you. Which brings us to our final hindrance that the Buddha talked about in achieving true meditation, which is ill will. I'm surprised you guys didn't bring this up. It's a little subtle. But what do you think about this? Basically, general anger. I'll put it like that and open the floor. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I could feel general anger when I see someone who's not slothful.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? It's like they think they're better than me because they're not having sloth right now.
Oh, yeah.
All the time, but it's great to recognize that, because the strike you were talking about, people meditating, you have to slap yourself back into it. It's just
that's
like,
cool. There it is.
They're not doing this to me.
Yep.
They are just doing that. They have to do that.
And the ill will, it's like this spirit that can sneak in, much like the rest of these.
Like a slithering snake.
Yeah,
man.
it's funny because some of
Creeps
these
up.
can be tied in with like the 7 deadly sins too. Like sloth is one. Maybe the ill will is close to wrath or something like that. It is a spirit, it's a snake that slithers in and says like, why is he hitting me? He's going harder than I went on him during this meditative retreat. Or you know what a big one for like the women in particular is? I like this example. What do you guys think? I guess men feel it too, but mostly for the women. You're in the shower and you keep replaying conversations in your head. I should have said that.
Yeah.
Oh, if I was smart, next time I'll get him. I'm going to do it this way. That is such like a trope of humanity. When you're alone, you don't think about how can I better myself. You think, fuck that dude.
It is so satanic, man. That's been on my mind the last 24 hours because
really?
That was one of the things that I had a deep moment when I was actually praying last night. And the amount of time, what seemed like minutes and minutes, of me inventing a scenario that hasn't happened, of someone doing something, me being prepared to suppress them and defend myself.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh my God, you're a demon.
Yeah.
Nothing. This is not happening.
This is a demon.
This might never happen. And you're
it probably
insane.
won't.
And
I think that's something that I've learned is
Exactly.
that it like never happens. I feel pretty confident in saying that it will not happen. It will never happen because you thought of it.
Yeah.
Now, that's just me being mystical and spiritual, but it seems to hold true for how I've experienced life, and we're all sort of prone to this, I think, a little bit. It tends to be women typically more, but the Adam and Eve.
Oh, man.
Ooh, the man was deceived, but Eve was like the little conduit that made it happen. So therefore, they're more
He had to get a bigger conduit than the snake.
Exactly,
conduit.
and then one leads to another, so it'll get there for sure.
I was gonna say that ill will is a tough one for me to relate to, but I can definitely say that I've had ill will about certain situations.
Not necessarily people.
Yeah, maybe not necessarily people, because I guess I'm just really understanding. I'm like, well, he doesn't want to be here either, kind of thing.
Right.
You know? But like the situation, I'm like, I can't believe we got to this point.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I've gotten that a lot.
That's cool too.
Yeah.
I think sometimes human nature that you could even blame the situation on somebody. Yeah. If you really want some retribution.
Yeah. But it's just like, I can't believe that all these things happen to bring us here. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
The situation.
It's so easy to think that if this one thing perhaps didn't happen, the entire chain of events could be different at this point.
If I could have just done this to stop it in its tracks. An old teacher
of mine, an old guru of mine once said, people are obsessed with this phrase, if only. If only, but like, what an illusion, what a deceit that is.
Ooh.
If you pay attention, you'll find yourself saying that a lot, I imagine. If only this, then this. It's a lie. Stop yourself, please. Like you said, recognizing. I think that's a big theme of ancient wisdom, as we all learned on this show, is a huge part of faith, prayer, whatever, grace, I should say as well, is just really recognizing it. Because most people, I'd say, don't even recognize it. They don't have enough wherewithal or grace to just stop and say, whoa, what was that? Was that a demon?
It's dark, man.
Yeah.
When you ask that question, you're like, oh my God, what just happened to me?
Where have I been for the last 5 minutes?
Yeah.
It's very prevalent. And I think, this could come from anything that is perceived, like a perceived threat, a perceived disrespect. And I thought of this phrase. I says, why should I be respected? Why should we be respected? And then Ram Dass had this great point I've been really meditating on. What is stopping us from seeing other humans or situations, in Poge's case, as trees, as shrubbery? We walk through the forest and we never say that tree is better than that tree. Oh, I like this tree sometimes, but that tree's gay.
That tree's got a shitty
attitude. Yeah, something like that. What is stopping us from seeing each other as we do trees? So unique as we are, existent as we are, in their life as they are. And yet we have more judgment of people than we do of other stimulus.
But then I also get to this point where I think everyone's looking at me a certain way, even though I don't judge people's appearance anymore. I could confidently say that because it has nothing to do with me if they want to look like that.
Yeah.
But I do get into the trap of thinking that they care about my appearance, which sometimes people for some reason are more interested in that than they should be.
True. Certainly true, especially now.
Yeah.
But then, I think that's even kind of part of the desire thing, right? Or like, fooling yourself into thinking you know what they're thinking. Even if you're probably right, it still feels wrong to get into in the first place because you will be wrong,
Right. Or like even if someone says something outwardly about, like, I don't know, your clothing or your style or something like that, or how you wear your hair.
Yeah.
Because you could get mad, but then there's something really cool happens when it's like, wait, this doesn't matter at all what this person thinks.
And there's this level of understanding which I'd be curious to hear you guys' thought. It's like, why is it so hard? This seems to be another one that's miraculously so difficult, and I know that it is. But seeing your own faults and your own times that you've been almost needlessly rude to people, and yet you have a hyper reaction when it hits you instead. It's very interesting. And I break that down into like understanding. Even that understanding, how I said it right there, that's the feeling that I get. Okay, this doesn't feel great right now, but they're going through a thing. I don't know everything about this person's life right now. I never could.
Yeah. For some reason, they had to say this.
Yeah, they had to say this.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Like something else. Yeah, having to do something is like, something's compelling you.
Yeah.
Like another force is working on you.
Very true. It brings up free will and stuff. But that's for next week episode. Guys, now on. Or I should say, guys, I think we got to the bottom of it. That's always my ending. Now on to Ancient Quotes with Evan.
Guys, I've got some very puzzling, cryptic, more hard to decipher quotes for you this week. EQ. Another Asian guy.
EQ.
Don't read the sutras. Practice meditation. Don't take up the broom. Practice meditation. Don't plant tea seeds. Practice meditation.
Oh my God.
And I couldn't help but think about the conversation you were having earlier about sloth.
Oh.
Because it's always wanting to prepare for the next moment to gain a pleasure or avoid pain.
Yep.
We get the broom, we want to sweep because we feel a clean house will make us feel more at peace in this place.
Yeah. We're sweeping away our inadequacies.
Yeah, we want to plant tea leaves so we could have a delicious cup of tea later.
That's cool.
You know, instead of just using the tea that's already in the cabinet. If you want.
Yeah,
Must
right. We
make
already
a-
got tea. What
Yeah,
are
why are
you
you
planting?
planting?
Must make some kind of distinction here.
Yeah.
Is this like what you would do instead of meditating?
Now,
Are
good
these
question.
your excuses? to
Now
not
you're
meditate?
asking the question, Poge. What do you think?
I think these are excuses to not meditate because meditation takes a lot more effort than reading the sutras.
That's pretty cool.
I think that these are all reasons to push meditation away, coming from a guy that puts it at the end of the line.
Nice. Wow, I feel like we're going to have 3 different takes on this. This is good. Poge says you're doing these things instead of meditating. And Evan says they're good things, if what I'm hearing you saying.
Actually, I think Poge got to the bottom of it.
Oh?
Because, yeah, I do think they are excuses because the only time I feel like the only time I meditate is when I feel like I should because I need peace kind of thing.
Yeah.
But before that, before I get to that conclusion of me needing to meditate and I should meditate, I think, maybe I should go plant the tea leaves. Maybe I should go do this and that. And delaying the inevitable, delaying the only thing that will actually get me some peace.
Oh, well, I'm going to blow you both out of the water and say, why would you want to delay doing the fun stuff
Meditation.
for a place of meditation?
That's why I jumped right to doubt earlier because it's the last thing on my list. I don't think I'm not sure it's that fun. I'm not sure it will be fun for me.
Interesting. Because what this screams to me is our old friend Lao Tzu, who says, do nothing, yet nothing remains undone.
Ooh.
I think what's really being said here is reading the sutras is meditation. Planting the tea leaves is meditation.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Sweeping the floor is meditation, or
The
should be
dash.
seen as thus.
Don't look at it as a task.
Yes.
Don't be like, I gotta get the broom. I
Do
gotta
nothing,
plant the
yet
tea
nothing
leaves.
remains undone. How is this
Whoa.
possible? Because you're not the one doing it. It is a state of meditation.
Whoa.
You're in it all the while.
Wow, it's all about the outcome, especially the first line. Don't read the sutras. You think you got to get something from the sutras,
Yeah,
not
I
about
gotta
just
learn.
enjoying the sutras.
I gotta do all these things. Sure, they do sound like fun things to me. Maybe not everybody, but they are things to get something. Get knowledge from the sutras. Clean my house with the broom. I gotta go plant the tea leaves. No. Do you really have to do that? Do you have to do that?
You know what? I'm meditating right now.
Dare to you. Poge learned a lot. I think we got to the bottom of it.
All right, this guy, Saigyo. The cherries only fault the crowds that gather when they bloom. This was really confusing.
Yeah.
It took me a little bit.
I'll say.
Took me a little bit to think of something that he was trying to say.
Sounds like a koan in itself. The Japanese sort of poetic form where it's just meant to bring on enlightenment. Maybe there's no meaning in itself. But what do you think about it?
I'm not sure if this is right, but obviously the cherries can't be to blame when the crowds come to gather and look at how beautiful they are.
Right. Oh, that's good. I say you got one half of it so far.
Okay. Well, we're putting a fault on the cherry, I guess, in this poem or koan or whatever you want to call it.
Oh.
But it's almost as if everything already has an inherent beauty, and we're bastardizing it by worshiping it too much. That's what I get from it.
Oh, that's a fun one. So I think, yeah, you almost kind of hit the two halves that I came up with, where it's like you really can't tell cherries not to bloom. Am I right?
Right.
But also, what gives cherries dominion over people who come to watch it bloom?
Just their physical pleasuring of our senses.
We got two sides of a confusing coin. The humans can't tell cherries to bloom, yet it blooms. The cherries can't tell humans not to appreciate their blooming because it's the beauty, like you said.
Yeah.
So we have two halves of this coin. That's why I think it's a koan. They're forces pointing at each other with just the purpose of an enlightenment and enlightening perspective or viewpoint.
I think we got to the bottom of it.
I love that become a phrase.
Ihara Saikaku
Oh yeah, my favorite.
said, "When you send a clerk on business to a distant province, a man of rigid morals may not be your best choice."
Damn.
He said is not your best choice,
Is
but I feel
not
like it's
your
more
best
contemplative when it says may not be your best choice.
Oh, interesting.
But he said it is not your best choice to send a man of rigid morals.
Yes.
That's interesting. Why wouldn't you want the most trustworthy guy?
Because he will not respect their land and culture. He's going to bring home with him to them, and he's going to make it very difficult for him to be able to communicate and get anything done, because he's going to think that he's still in his country because of his rigid morality.
You think maybe the rigid morality will not translate to another land?
He won't accept their ways because he is so stuck to his.
Oh, interesting. I didn't think about it that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of am even translating that myself from what you're saying is that, well, let's also think that this is somewhat ancient times. I believe this guy's from the 1800s. And so it's also saying distant. Mm-hmm. What's the line? Distant.
When you send a clerk on business to a distant province.
Distant. Why must it be a distant province? That's an interesting word.
Ooh, because it appears that his morals are so rigid when he's not distant from you. But who's to say that distance will not change it?
That's a cool take too. Yeah, right.
Distance will
He's got all these morals.
Loosen up his morals the further away he is.
Right, because rigid is like... That's another one of those Tao terms. Like rigid is like too much force and holding on to something.
I feel that too. Rigid.
I feel like, but being loose with your morals doesn't sound very good either.
Yeah.
So having rigid morality seems like it's still penetrable somehow.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why is it so rigid? Why isn't your morality just effortless?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. That's probably really close to what he's trying to say. It's rigid when it should be effortless. But I think that combines with Poge too, because it's just like, yeah, why are you trying so hard? If you're trying so hard, there's sort of like a phoniness to it. Whereas like if you had the vibe, if you knew the way, as they called Christianity or the Tao, you would know there's no borders. There's no distance. That's why it needs to be a distant province. Because if you're doing it around the corner, okay, yeah, at least people know you around here. That's pretty deep. Because I do think in that ancient mindset, too. I imagine these guys didn't have WhatsApp. They didn't have Facebook.
You know what? And I think if someone were to go a great distance, their morality might be tested more.
Oh, hot take. That's a good one, too.
If your morality is so rigid and you're just unwavering in it, you may not be able to carry out the task where the culture is different in a distant province, a distant land.
Might require different skills.
Yeah, you might not be able to sell your product or your service in a distant province
Right.
if you still have the morale of
Yeah.
where you're from.
I guess it depends on the task too, right? Is he trying to sell something?
Right, you might need to be a little more sleazy where you're going
Yeah.
in your sales tactics.
Smooth even.
Yeah.
And like, when's the last time you met like a smooth priest or something like that with these rigid morals?
True. Never.
Morals.
That's a tough one. I don't know if I'll ever know the answer to that one.
Wow, deep. A lot of the Eastern stuff is sort of koan based. I've just kind of taken that as granted these days. That
Incidentally, some of these were haikus also.
Yeah,
they were
haiku.
poetry. They were meant to be
straight
poetry.
up,
Yeah.
because that's what it is. Like, I think we've forgotten that in modern times, that really, what is poetry? It's not an explanation. I'd read a science book if I wanted an explanation. Poetry is to evoke emotions or to get you to see things from a different way. Maybe the way that I saw it, because I can't explain how beautiful the water was when the sunlight shined off on it that one summer. I'll never be able to explain it. But if I told you a haiku, I could express the feeling that I felt, perhaps.
Ooh.
And I think that's what we've forgotten in modern times. And I take that with a grain of salt for the ancient, especially the Eastern poetic forms.
I think that's why I've always been so bad at writing. I was trying to describe as opposed to invoke a feeling
Oh, yes.
of what I experienced.
Now on to Mitch Translates the Tao. All good.
Not sexty.
Mitch Translates the Tao, chapter 39. The ancients knew of oneness. Heaven in oneness is clear. Earth in oneness is peaceful. God in oneness is effective. Valleys in oneness are filled. The 10,000 things in oneness are born. Kings in oneness act according to heaven's principles. Heaven unclear, I fear it would crack. Earth unpeaceful, I fear it would wither. God ineffective, I fear would take a break. Valleys unfilled, I fear would exhaust. The 10,000 things unborn, I fear would be extinguished. Kings unsteadfast, I fear would be trampled. Therefore the noble has humility as its roots. Highness has lowness as its foundation. Kings label themselves lonely, inadequate, and unworthy. This is because humility is their root, is it not? There is no reputation to praise. Therefore, do not desire jade as jade. Wear it as if it were stone.
Dude, I think that's my favorite one yet. That really hits deep. Very deep. It makes so much sense, especially with the rulers part, but I don't know if you want to break it down line by line, but it totally makes sense to me that kings, the best kings, would have to be humble and have a low opinion of themselves in comparison to everybody else, because that king will be loved by everybody if he puts himself at the same level as everybody.
Deep, I like it.
And he'll have more desire to do good by these loving people if they love him.
Yeah, absolutely. This is very strange because this is one of the longer ones. We're getting to the longer section of the Tao, but I feel like it really all just comes back to that one point. It's using nature as these examples for basically how the earth should be run, because who else is reading this? Heaven, earth, God aren't reading this. We're reading this. The kings of our own domain are reading this. And you must be, at your root, humble. I was thinking about, the book Win Friends and Influence People, the old book from the early 20th century. And, the main point of that book is basically saying, listen more than you speak, because people love to speak. And if it's done in a phony way, it's not going to work. But if it's done in a way where you're actually listening to somebody, that's the humility. If you actually like to listen, that is the love.
I think that's where that book goes wrong, How to Win Friends and Influence People, because it doesn't tell you how to get to that point of actually caring about how to listen. The fact that you're reading the book How to Win Friends and Influence People
it shows
means that you don't care about what people have to say, and you really just want a one-upment over them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
your priorities are...
It's totally true. If you can get to a point where you actually enjoy hearing others and not just say the phrases like, let me try to understand you better. Or like, so what I really hear you saying, even though this is a joke on the show, or I'm just trying to get a better understanding. There's these phrases that fake empathetic people do.
Oh, yeah.
That I just hear and I'm like, this person doesn't care. They just like to sound as if they're caring.
Yeah, exactly. That's the worst part. And people could usually tell. I'm reminded of also like the pickup artist kind of thing too. And they say the best one is the one who actually like wants to hear what women have to say. And I'm like, oof. That's a tough one.
Actually wants. Yeah. Meaning they don't want to either. Yeah. When they're saying that.
Yeah. They're like, the best pickup artists I've ever seen, they're like, really like talking to women. And I'm like, oh man, I thought you're going to give me 6 easy steps to get bitches.
That's pretty deep if you think about it, though, if you can actually force yourself to be more phony. But that's satanic.
Yeah.
Like, if you force yourself to care about what women say.
Ain't that what it is? And I think maybe that's even what we're getting into, which is like, to be one, why are you getting bitches anyway? For a satanic reason. Okay, so you're going to use satanic methods to get your satanic ends. Like, you're going to be phony, and then before you know it, your whole life is a lie. You're living lie after lie, and it's not humble, which is what I think this is what it's really all about. I think the fundamentals will break it down at the very end. Therefore, nobility has humility as its root. Highness has lowness as its foundation. There is nothing up high if it doesn't have a strong foundation. And if you label yourself as inadequate and unworthy, humility is their root. There is no reputation to praise. There's no reputation. You don't even have a reputation.
Oh, man.
Right? Do you see it that way?
Because I swear I've been convinced in life that if you were to tell somebody or give someone the impression that you feel inadequate of yourself, I don't think you should go telling people that you feel inadequate of yourself. But if you were to do that, it's almost like the average human response is to be like, no, you're not inadequate. People love you.
Phoniness.
Yeah, people love you just the way you are, never change kind of thing. But then you realize that they are actually killing you and making you worse by telling you are adequate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in some weird way, they're actually keeping you down by telling you that you're something.
Yeah, that's why it's just like this cyclical dishonesty that shouldn't be birthed anyway. And the Chinese characters is interesting because kings label themselves, maybe even label isn't exactly, but they fulfill in the world this idea of unworthiness. And there is no reputation to even praise. Therefore, do not desire jade as jade, wear it as if it were stone. That's saying, if you find yourself as a king, which all kings have, you didn't do anything special. Well, unless you conquered some other tribe or something. But mostly it's, what do they call it? Hereditary.
Yeah.
One day you just wake up and they're like, hey, you're going to be king when you're a little older. You're like, what? Me? I didn't do shit. I'm not different from anybody. So you will wear the jade to separate yourself, but you must wear it as if it's stone. Do not treasure it more than you would stone.
Wow, just that thought in a child's mind of the child of the king. That's interesting. All the spiritual stuff at work there too, because that reaction, the first reaction child has like, what? I'm just a kid. What am I going to do as king? I can't be king. That's probably a better attitude to have as king.
Yeah.
Than being bred to be like, all right, I'm gonna be king one day.
Oh darn, yeah, that's
true. It's like every
that's
step.
Like how I was doing.
Right, every step towards becoming king is actually making you a worse king.
Wow. I love this a lot because it's often how I think of the story of Job in the Bible. I'm often asked to explain Job, and I've got to the conclusion that it is a situation you find yourself in. Much like life, you wake up and you're alive. You wake up and you're king. If you lost your leg in the war, you wake up the next day and you don't have a leg. You find yourself in these positions. How do we go about it? You just do. Humility. You take your role. You just do. And take that little slice of ancient wisdom.
If you're going to be a creationist, be a creationist.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a evolutionist, be an evolutionist.
Very true.
Because God already is oneness with everything, if that's your belief.
Right.
But the moment where you say, God did this, but he's not doing this, that's when he's separated and he's ineffective.
So that's super deep. I think of, to answer your question, Poach, I kind of think of monotheism as well. In addition to that, monotheism, God in oneness, there is one God. If you believe that, he's effective. But if that's not what you believe, if God isn't the oneness, he'll take a break. He'll let you hear
multiple
yourself.
gods.
Yeah, multiple gods,
things you're worshiping.
fractured. Your mind is fractured as God is. Therefore, God takes a break on you. He says, I'm going to let him figure this out, perhaps.
So this is why I come here for my ancient wisdom.
Yeah. That's just my view. We'd like to hear your comments. And as usual, thanks for watching. I hope you learned a lot. Let us know. And this has been episode 57. Man. Catch you next time.